Chinese Landscape Painting, Part 3, Born of Nature's Poetry, a Reflection Meditation. The music will be from the ancient music of the Chinese Dynasties by the Beijing Instrumental Ensemble, and the poetry is from 300 poems of the Tang Dynasty. In the first part, that is my presentation of Chinese landscapes, in many of the landscape images I included the name of the painting and the painter, and sometimes the name of the poet along with his poetry, as we see here. In this case, Kun Kan was both a painter and poet, and he wrote his poem in the upper left, meant to correspond to his painting. I want to go further, but my legs are bruised and scratched. The bony rocks appear chiseled. The pines look as if they had been dyed. Sitting down, I feel like a small bird as I look out at the crowd of peaks gathered before me. Having ascended the heights to the brink of the abyss, I hold fast and ponder the need to sincerely face criticism. Wherever a road ends, I will set myself down. Wherever a source opens, I will build a temple. All this suffices to nourish my eyes and rest my feet. But this combination of poem and painting was quite unusual. Most of the calligraphy on the paintings was added later by admirers. So mainly the landscape images I have chosen do not specifically go with the poems. Here the poet Chang Wei wrote Delayed on the Road to Sichuan, and Jing Hao painted his Travelers in a Snowy Landscape. They were not created to go together, but they do well together anyway. So often poetry inspired painting, of course, and painting inspired poetry. Here we know the poet, but not the painter. So the poetry will be the main focus now, with the landscapes as suggestive reflective additions. So get yourself inside the head of the poet and put a more dreamy eye to the landscapes. Have a sharp mind for the words, relax for the images. I won't show the names of the poets or painters. It would be too distracting for now. Here, beside a clear, deep lake, you live accompanied by clouds, or soft through the pine the moon arrives, to be your own pure-hearted friend. You rest under thatch in the shadow of your flowers. Your dewy herbs flourish in their bed of moss. Oh, let me leave the world, let me alight like you on our western mountain with phoenixes and cranes. On a road outreaching the white clouds, by a spring outrunning the bluest river, petals come drifting on the wind, and the brook is sweet with them all the way. My quiet gait is a mountain trail, and the willow trees about my cottage sift on my sleeve through the shadowy noon, distillations of the sun. While visiting on the south stream, the priest Chang. Walking along a little path, I find a footprint on the moss, a white cloud low on the quiet lake, grasses that sweeten an idle door, a pine grown greener with the rain, a brook that comes from a mountain source, and, mingling with truth among the flowers, I have forgotten what to say. Dwelling by a stream. I had so long been troubled by official hat and robe that I am glad to be an exile here in this wild Southland. I am neighbor now of planters and reapers. I am a guest of the mountains and woods. I plow in the morning, turning dewy grasses, and at evening tie my fisher boat, breaking the quiet stream. Back and forth I go, scarcely meeting anyone, and sing a long poem and gaze at the blue sky. Returning at night to Lumen Mountain. A bell in the mountain temple sounds the coming of night. I hear people at the fishing town stumble aboard the ferry, while others follow the sandbank to their homes along the river. I also take a boat and am bound for Lumen Mountain, and soon the Lumen moonlight is piercing misty trees. I have come, before I know it, upon an ancient hermitage, the thatched door, the piney path, and the solitude. The quiet where a hermit lives and moves, never needing a companion. Tender orchid leaves in spring, and cinnamon blossoms bright in autumn. They are as self-containing as life is, which conforms them to the seasons. Yet why will you think that a forest hermit, allured by sweet winds and contented with beauty, would no more ask to be transplanted than any other natural flower? From my study at the mouth of the valley. At a little grass hut in the valley of the river, where a cloud seems born from a viny wall, you will love the bamboos new with rain, and mountains tender in the sunset. Cranes drift early here to rest, and autumn flowers are slow to fade. I have bidden my pupil to sweep the grassy path for the coming of my friend. In the pure morning, near the old temple, here early sunlight points the treetops. My path is wound through a shelter hollow of boughs and flowers to a forest retreat. Here birds are alive with mountain light, and the mind of man touches peace in a pool. And 1,000 sounds are quieted by the breathing of a temple bell. Mountain stones. Rough were the mountain stones, and the path very narrow, and when I reached the temple, bats were in the dusk. I climbed to the hall, sat on the steps, and drank the rain-washed air among the round gardenia pods and huge banana leaves. On the old wall, said the priest, were fine paintings, and he brought a light and showed me, and I called them wonderful. He spread the bed, dusted the mats, and made my supper ready, and though the food was coarse, it satisfied my hunger. At midnight, while I lay there, not hearing even an insect, the mountain moon with her pure light entered my door. At dawn I left the mountain, and alone I lost my way. In and out, up and down, while a heavy mist made brook and mountain green and purple, brightening everything. I am passing sometimes pines and oaks which 10 men could not girdle. I am treading pebbles barefoot in swift running water. Its ripples purify my ear, while a soft wind blows my garments. These are things which in themselves make life happy. Why, then, should we be hemmed about and hampered with people? What if I spent my old age here and never went back home? Down Chongnan Mountain to the kind pillow and bowl of Hushu. Down the Blue Mountain in the evening, moonlight was my homeward escort. Looking back, I saw my path lie in levels of deep shadow. I was passing the farmhouse of a friend when his children called from a gate of thorn. They led me, twining through jade bamboos, where green vines caught and held my clothes. I was glad of a chance to rest, and glad of a chance to drink with my friend. We sang to the tune of the wind in the pines, and when we finished our songs as the stars went down, when I, being drunk and my friend more than happy, between us we forgot the world. After missing the recluse on the western mountain, to your hermitage here on the top of the mountain I have climbed, without stopping, these 10 miles. I have knocked at your door, and no one answered. I have peered into your room, at your seat beside the table. Perhaps you are out riding in your canopied chair, or fishing more likely in some autumn pool. Sorry though I am to be missing you, you have become my meditation. The beauty of your grasses, fresh with rain, and close beside your window, the music of your pines. I take into my being all that I see and hear, soothing my senses, quieting my heart. And though there be neither host nor guest, have I not reasoned a visit complete? After all, I have gone down the mountain. Why should I wait for you any longer? On parting with the pilgrim Lin Chi. From the temple, deep in its tender bamboos, comes the low sound of an evening bell, while the hat of a pilgrim carries the sounds farther and farther down the green mountain. An autumn cottage at Pashang. After the shower at Pashang, I see an evening line of wild geese, the limp hanging leaves of a foreign tree, a lantern's cold gleam, lonely in the night, an empty garden white with dew, the ruined wall of a neighboring monastery. I have taken my ease here long enough. What I am waiting for, I wonder. Reading classics with Zhao at his temple in the early morning. I clean my teeth in water drawn from a cold well, and while I brush my clothes, I purify my mind. Then, slowly turning pages in the tree-leaf book, I recite along the path to the eastern shelter. The world has forgotten the true fountain of this teaching, and people enslave themselves to miracles and fables. Under the given words, I want the essential meaning. I look for the simplest way to sow and reap my nature. Here in the quiet of the priest's temple courtyard, mosses and their climbing color to the thick bamboo. And now comes the sun, out of mist and fog, and pines that seem to be new-bathed. And everything is gone from me. Speech goes and reading, leaving the single unison. On climbing Orchid Mountain in the autumn. On a northern peak, among white clouds, you have found your hermitage of peace. And now, as I climb this mountain to see you, high with the wild geese flies my heart. The quiet dusk might seem a little sad if this autumn weather were not so brisk and clear. I hope that you will come and meet me, bringing a basket of wine, and we'll celebrate together the mountain holiday. A view of Taishan. What shall I say of the great peak? The ancient dukedoms are everywhere green, inspired and stirred by the breath of creation, with the twin forces balancing day and night. I bare my breast toward opening clouds. I strain my sight after birds flying home. When shall I reach the top and hold all mountains in a single glance? An autumn evening in the mountains. After rain, the empty mountain stands autumnal in the evening, moonlight in its groves of pine, stones of crystal in its brooks. Bamboos whisper of washer-girls bound home. Lotus leaves yield before a fisher boat. And what does it matter that springtime has gone while you are here, O Prince of Friends? A solitary wild goose. Line after line has flown back over the border. Where are you headed all by yourself? In the evening rain you call to them, and slowly you alight on an icy pond. The low, wet clouds move faster than you along the wall toward the cold moon. If they caught you in a net or with a shot, would it be worse than flying alone? A boat in spring on Toya Lake. Thoughtful elation has no end. Onward I bear it to whatever comes. And my boat and I, before the evening breeze, passing flowers, Entering the lake, turn at nightfall toward the western valley. There I watch the south star over the mountain, any mist that rises hovering soft, and the low moon slanting through the trees. And I choose to put away from me every worldly matter, and only to be an old man with a fishing pole. Farewell to a Japanese priest bound homeward. You were foreordained to find the source. Now, tracing your way as in a dream, there where the sea floats up the sky, you wane from the world in your fragile boat. The water and the moon are as calm as your faith. Fishes and dragons follow your chanting, and the eye still watches beyond the horizon the holy light of your single lantern. Through the Yangtze gorges, from the walls of Poti high in the colored dawn, to Qianling by nightfall is 300 miles. Yet monkeys are still calling on both banks behind me, to my boat, these 10,000 mountains away. River snow. 100 mountains and no bird, 1,000 paths without a footprint, a little boat, a bamboo cloak, and an old man fishing in the cold river snow. Mountains cover the white sun, and oceans drain the golden river. But you widen your view 300 miles by glowing up one flight of stairs. Ascending the pagoda at the Temple of Kind Favor. The pagoda, rising abruptly from earth, reaches to the very palace of heaven. Climbing, we seem to have left the world behind us. Birds fly down beyond our sight, and the rapid wind below our hearing. Mountain ranges toward the east appear to be curving and flowing like rivers. Far green locust trees line broad roads toward clustered palaces and mansions. Colors of autumn, out of the west, enter advancing through the city. And northward there lie in 5 graveyards, calm forever under dewy green grass, those who know life's meaning, which all humankind must learn. To find the eternal way is the only happiness. Seeing Li Po in a dream. You had sent me not one sign from your exile, till you came to me last night in a dream. Because I'm always thinking of you, I wondered if it were really you, venturing so long a journey. You came to me through the green of a forest. You disappeared by a shadowy fortress. I woke, and the low moon's glimmer on a rafter seemed to be your face, still floating in the air. There were waters to cross. They were wild and tossing. If you fell, there were dragons and river monsters. This cloud that has drifted all day through the sky may, like a wanderer, never come back. 3 nights now I have dreamed of you, as tender, intimate, and real as though I were awake. And then, abruptly rising to go, you told me the perils of adventure. By river and lake, the storms and wrecks, the fears that are born on a little boat. And here in my doorway you rubbed your white head, as if there was something puzzling you. Who says that the heavenly net never fails? Chancing on old friends in a village inn. While the autumn moon is pouring full on 1,000 night levels among towns and villages, there meet by chance south of the river dreaming doubters of a dream. In the trees a wind has startled the birds, and insects cower from cold in the grass. But wayfarers at least have wine and nothing to fear until the morning bell. An old fisherman spent the night here under the western cliff. He dipped up water from the pure Xiang and made a bamboo fire. And then at sunrise he went his way through the cloven mist. with only the creak of his paddle left in the greenness of mountain and river. I turn and I see the waves moving as if from heaven, and clouds above the cliffs coming idly, one by one. To a friend bound east. The old fort brims with yellow leaves. You insist upon forsaking this place where you have lived. A high wind blows at Hangyang Ferry, and sunrise lights the summit of Yingmen. Who will be left for me along the upper Yangtze, after your solitary skiff has entered the end of the sky? I ask you over and over when we shall meet again, while we soften with wine cups this ache of farewell. On seeing the snow peak of Chungnan, see how Chungnan Mountain soars with its white top over floating clouds, and a warm sky opening at the snow line, while the town in the valley grows colder and colder. Passing through Huanyin, clouds are parting above the temple of the emperor. Rain dries on the mountain. Ranges and rivers are the strength of this western gate, whence roads and trails lead downward into China. O pilgrim of fame, O seeker of profit, why not remain here and lengthen your days? Hard roads in Shu. Oh, but it is high and very dangerous. Such traveling is harder than scaling the blue sky. Until two rulers of this region pushed their way through the misty ages, 48,000 years had passed, with nobody arriving across the Qin border. And the great white mountain westward still has only a bird's path, up to the summit of Omai Peak, which was broken once by an earthquake, and there were brave men lost. High as on a tall flag, 6 dragons drive the sun, while the river far below lashes its twisted course. Such height would be hard going for even a yellow crane. Panting, we brush Orion and pass the well star, then holding our chests with our hands and sinking to the ground with a groan, we wonder if this westward trail will never have an end. The formidable path ahead grows darker, darker still, with nothing heard but the call of birds hemmed in by the ancient forest. And there comes to us the melancholy voices of the cuckoos, out of the empty mountain, under the lonely moon. Oh, such traveling is harder than scaling the blue sky, with the highest crag barely a foot below heaven. Dry pines hang head down from the face of the cliffs, and 1,000 plunging cataracts outroar one another, and send through 10,000 valleys a thunder of spinning stones. Such traveling is harder than scaling the blue sky, but I still race westward with a dreary moan. In spring. Your grasses up north are as blue as jade. Our mulberries here curve green-threaded branches. And at last you think of returning home, now when my heart is almost broken. O breeze of the spring, since I dare not know you, why part the silk curtains by my bed? Entertaining literary men in my official residence on a rainy day. Wind and rain coming in from the sea have cooled this pavilion above the lake, and driven the feverish heat away from where my eminent guests are gathered. Ashamed though I am of my high position, while people lead unhappy lives, let us reasonably banish care, and just be friends, enjoying nature. We bow, we take our cups of wine, we give our attention to beautiful poems. When the mind is exalted, the body is lightened, and feels as if it could float in the wind. As the years go by, give me but peace, freedom from 10,000 matters. I ask myself, and always answer, what can be better than coming home? A wind from the pine trees blows my sash, and my lute is bright with the autumn moon. You ask me about good and evil fortune? Oh, hark, on the lake there is a fisherman singing. To one unnamed. Time was long before I met her, but is longer since we parted. And the east wind has risen, and 100 flowers are gone. And the silkworms of spring will weave until they die, and every night the candles will weep their wicks away. Mornings in her mirror she sees her hair cloud changing, yet she dares the chill of moonlight with her evening song. It is not so very far to her enchanted mountain. Oh, bluebirds, be listening. Bring me what she says. One-hearted. When those red berries come in springtime, flushing on your southland branches, take home an armful for my sake, as a symbol of our love. In my lodge after a long rain. The woods have stored the rain, and slow comes the smoke, as rice is cooked on coals and carried to the fields. Over the quiet marshland flies a white egret, and mango birds are singing in the full summer trees. I have learned to watch in peace the mountain morning glories, to eat split dewy sunflower seeds under a bough of pine, to yield the post of honor to any boar at all. Why should I frighten seagulls, even with a thought? A view of the Han River. With its 3 southern branches reaching the Chu border, and its 9 streams touching the gateway of Qing, this river runs beyond heaven and earth, where the color of mountains both is and is not. The dwellings of men seem floating along on ripples of the distant sky. These beautiful days here in Xiangyang make drunken my old mountain heart. A farewell to Wai Wan, bound for the capital. The traveler's parting song sounds in the dawn. Last night a first frost came over the river, and the crying of the wild geese grieves my sad heart. Bound by a gloom of cloudy mountains, here in the gate city day will flush cold, and washing flails quicken by the gardens at twilight. How long shall the capital content you, where the months and the years so vainly go by? Mooring at twilight. Furling my sail near the town of Huai, I find for harbor a little cove, where a sudden breeze whips up the waves. The sun is growing dim now and sinks in the dusk. People are coming home. The bright mountain peak darkens. Wild geese fly down to an island of white weeds. At midnight I think of a northern city gate, and I hear a bell tolling between me and sleep. Early autumn. There's a harp in the midnight playing clear, while the west wind rustles a green vine. There's a low cloud touching the jade-white dew, and an early wild goose in the river of stars. Night in the tall trees clings to dawn. Light makes foals in the distant hills. And here on the Huai River, by one falling leaf, I can feel a storm on Lake Tong Ting. My retreat at Mount Chongnan. My heart in middle age found the way, and I came to dwell at the foot of this mountain. When spirit moves, I wander alone amid beauty that is all for me. I will walk till the water checks my path, then sit and watch the rising clouds, and someday meet an old woodcutter and talk and laugh and never return. Climbing in autumn for a view from the temple. As the seasons have dealt with this ancient terrace, so autumn breaks my homesick heart. Few pilgrims venture climbing to a temple so wild up from the lake in the mountain clouds. Sunset clings in the old defenses. A stone gong shivers through the empty woods. Of the old southern dynasty, what remains? Nothing but the great river. On a gate tower at Yuchu, where before me are the ages that have gone, and where behind me are the coming generations. I think of heaven and earth without limit, without end, and I am all alone, and my tears fall down. Falling petals. Gone is the guest from the chamber of rank, and petals, confused in my little garden, zigzagging down my crooked path, escort like dancers the setting sun. Oh, how can I bear to sweep them away? To a sad-eyed watcher they never return. Heart's fragrance is spent with the ending of spring, and nothing left but a tear-stained robe. Inscribed on the painting called River in Autumn. The Yangtze River, autumn colors, fathomless, no limit. As wild geese go flying past, water splashes sky. In the river inlets, all 72, this night of bright moonlight, reed blossoms and maple leaves cover the fishing boats. Peach Blossom River. I awake light-hearted this morning of spring, everywhere round me the singing of birds. But now I remember the night, the storm, and I wonder how many blossoms were broken. Scattered clouds pass over the Taao mountain. Rain falls at intervals on the Chung Taao ranges. The color of the trees follows the pass into the distance. The evening sun crossed the western passes, and all the ravines are suddenly dipped in darkness. Can you know the hermit's heart without understanding praise of the pine? The South Mountain falls into my window. This is what keeps out the noise and the clamor. While my little boat moves on its mooring of mist, and daylight wanes, old memories begin. Oh, how wide the world was, how close the trees to heaven, and how clear in the water the nearness of the moon. Leaning alone in the thick bamboos, I am playing my lute and humming a song, too softly for anyone to hear, except my companion, the bright moon. A green stream. I have sailed the river of yellow flowers, borne by the channel of a green stream, rounding 10,000 turns through the mountains, on a journey of less than 30 miles. Rapids hum over heaped rocks. But where light grows dim, in the thick pines, the surface of an inlet sways with nuthorns, and weeds are lush along the banks. Down in my heart I have always been as pure as this limpid water is. Oh, to remain on a broad, flat rock, and to cast a fishing net forever. A leisurely stroll. Mountains of green trees and orioles everywhere. I return from watching clouds over the stream. Human life can never be without some kind of trouble. It is only when walking in the mountains that we really achieve peace. On hearing Chung play his lute. The monk from Shu, with his green silk lute case, walking west down Omai Mountain, has brought me here, by one touch of the strings, the breath of pines in 1,000 valleys. I hear him in the cleansing brook. I hear him in the icy bells. And I feel no change, though the mountain darkens and cloudy autumn heaps up the sky. A song of Lu Mountain. Holding in my hand a staff of green jade, I have crossed since morning at the Yellow Crane Terrace all 5 holy mountains without a thought of distance, according to the one constant habit of my life. Lu Mountain stands beside the Southern Dipper, in clouds reaching silken like a 9-paneled screen, with its shadows in a crystal lake deepening the green water. The Golden Gate opens into 2 mountain ranges. A silver stream is hanging down to 3 stone bridges within sight of the mighty 2-legged falls. Ledges of cliff and winding trails lead to blue sky, and a flush of cloud in the morning sun, whence no flight of birds could be blown up to Lu. I climb to the top. I survey the whole world. I see the long river that runs beyond return. Yellow clouds that winds have driven hundreds of miles, and a snow peak whitely circled by the swirl of a 9-fold stream. And so I am singing a song of Lu Mountain, a song that is born of its breath.